Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner, thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss the hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So, fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So, our room this morning is holiday networking strategies for introverts. And complete disclosure here, I think everybody knows I am a massive introvert, 100%. So let me introduce myself. My name is Linda Steffens. I am an accountant and author and an introvert, and I've been hanging around public practice now for just on 30 years. Time flies when you're having fun. And of course, I have a great co host with me this morning. Good morning, Donna Bruce. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks, Linda.
That's good. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Donna Bruce. I'm an accountant, business owner, and also an introvert. I started in tax and accounting just over 18 years ago. And I guess when I started, I was hiding away in a room punching numbers into a computer.
Yes.
Then I grew to be providing more strategic advice, but it was more on a one-on-one focus. And then after I became a partner just over 8 years ago, that was the point in time when I had to start bringing in clients and was sort of encouraged to go out and do networking. And at the time I was terrified. So that's why I guess this topic resonated with me as well.
Absolutely. And, I share your experience and we'll get into that as well, through our chat this morning. So thank you for joining me and taking the time to help me out with this topic today. So, of course, just a reminder that as we kick off our conversation, it's always our intention to be positive, supportive, and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. So if you'd like to tune in to some previous topics, because Kylie and I, over the last 12 months or 18 months really, have talked about a lot of different topics. And so, there's plenty there for you to listen to if you need to grab some CPD or CPE points, because we are a CPA public practice discussion group. So you are allowed to claim your points for that. So that's an extra bonus. All right. So holiday networking strategies for introverts. A month of or more of office Christmas parties. At least, exactly, Donna. And holiday networking can leave us introverts wanting to climb under a blanket and never come out again. It can feel as though there's a lot of pressure on us to socialise in the lead up to Christmas. Our inboxes don't stop pinging away with invitations to festive networking events. If you're a firm partner or in a position of leadership, you may feel the pressure to even host some of these events yourself. Organise that big annual Christmas party, invite the whole company, the partners, the team, everybody, which can add up to, lots of people. So if you're feeling as though attending social events and making small talk is the last thing you want to be doing, then you're not alone. But we want to delve into a little bit more than that. We want to look at the strategic side behind this, the why of networking, even the why of introversion a little bit, which I think is the place I'll start. But why should you even consider networking? Is it worth it? And as an introvert, how can we successfully manage our energy at social events so that you don't flame out before even Christmas arrives? Now, that's an interesting topic, or that last statement. I don't know what's happened with you in the past, Donna, but I remember many, many years in a row when I was in practice that I would always say, Christmas comes too fast because I'm only ready for it on Boxing Day. So I was so tired, so worn out, overwhelmed that Christmas Day would just go by in a complete blur. And it was only that I was coming out from underneath this blanket maybe sometime in the afternoon of Boxing Day. So I always felt like I'd almost completely missed Christmas. I don't know, had you ever had those feelings before?
Probably not the having missed Christmas, but I was probably in the boat where I can't wait for Christmas to get here because
Yes.
I am overwhelmed. I'm
Yes.
stressed. Not only are you trying to do all this networking, but you're trying to do the work to get
As
it done
well.
before Christmas as well. So it's a double whammy from an exhaustion point of view.
Exactly.
So definitely, yeah.
Yeah, there's this magic deadline, isn't there, that is Christmas,
Yes.
that it has no other reasoning behind it. You know, it's not that banks want anything or someone else wants, so it's just that it's Christmas and I want it done before Christmas.
That's it. And we have enough deadlines in our industry already. So just that extra one just adds that little extra bit of pressure.
Yeah. So, yes, look, it's senior leaders, managers, our team members, everybody around us. You know, it's a tough time of year. And I also notice it in the work that I do regularly that accountants are not really wanting to talk to me in December, you know, so I get to start my holiday sometimes a little bit earlier, which is nice. But, you know, I understand because I certainly was there. And Donna, you're right in it and doing it now, aren't you?
That's it, yes. I think surprisingly this year with the Christmas functions, I think a lot of people pushed them earlier. So we had a lot in November.
Yes.
And then I got a little bit quieter this month. So it's actually been a little bit of a reprieve to be able to focus on those other things and avoiding that mad rush. But in saying that, we're finishing up a bit early this year, so on Friday. So it's been a little bit of extra crazy busy this week. But
okay, there you go.
Well,
I appreciate very much your extra time this morning then. Thank you. Gosh, we're
Not a
lucky,
problem.
everybody. That's good. So what I wanted to start with, I think, is a little bit about introvert and extrovert. So I talk about this a lot because, you know, as I said, 100% massive, huge introvert. People look at me and challenge me on that all of the time. Linda, you're not an introvert. Oh my gosh, look at you. You're out there on social media talking, doing what we're doing this morning, all those things. It's that's because that people don't really understand what being an introvert actually means. And over the years or over time, it's gotten misused in just our normal language to the point where we use it to describe perhaps someone that's quieter, shy, you know, perhaps doesn't mix with people as much as others do. And so traits like that. Now, they are personality traits or they are conditioning as well. So there's a whole lot to learn about that. We haven't got time to do that today. Yep. But really, that's a whole nother 6 topics. But, you know, the introversion and extroversion, they're terms that mean how you recharge your energy or when you do your best work. Now, for introverts, we do our best work in quiet, alone time. Now, what that means is then that generally it's away from people because people are noisy. You know, they move a lot and they're noisy. So extroverts, they process best and recharge their batteries when they are around noise and movement. And people bring noise and movement. So I've had plenty of accountants say to me, Linda, I hate people. It's like, you don't hate people. You actually don't like the noise and movement that they bring.
Yes.
So it interrupts our thought processes and it drains our energy. So when people see me out and about doing this sort of stuff, I can't do this sort of stuff every day, all day, week on, week out. That does not happen. I minimize the time that I do these sorts of activities because otherwise I would be a complete mess and would never come out from under that blanket. So Donna,
I'm the same.
Yeah, being an introvert. So you said right from the start that you were an introvert. When or how did you recognize that you were an introvert or started to align yourself with that, I suppose?
Oh, I think, well, I have all of those traits you talked about, the personality traits, the shy, the keep to yourself, the needing to have that quiet time to recharge and and probably didn't have the need to label myself as an introvert, but I guess it's always just been that's it. And I'll go to a big week sometimes of networking, and I'll come home to my husband and say, hey, I just don't want to talk.
No.
So I just have some peace and quiet, and he understands me, gives me the space to recharge those batteries, as you say. So yeah, that's me through and through.
It's wonderful when you have a partner, whether they're introverted or extroverted, that can understand that need in you. And I think the first part of it is to understand us first, and if you identify with introversion, then what that means, what you need, and start to incorporate some time into your week or your days to help keep your batteries charged. Because I know there's days where the end of the day or the end of the week, I've got nothing left, and you do need to recharge those batteries, because our bodies and our minds are just not built to keep going. If we keep draining our batteries, they eventually die and wear out, and then that's not a nice place to be in.
Burnout.
Yes, completely burned out, overwhelmed, all of those things. So we don't want to go there. So that's introvert, extrovert. It is a spectrum. You're not wholly introvert and you're not wholly extrovert. We can move along the spectrum. It can move around. So it's a shifting thing. But for the most part, we generally find people identify a little bit more with one rather than the other one. So, and particularly with all of the accountants that I've talked to over the years, I tend to find we have more that identify with introversion than I do with extroversion. Definitely. Although they do exist out there. Absolutely, we see them. Okay, so if that's introvert, extrovert, then let's talk a bit about networking. So, of course, I just said that people bring noise and movement, which introverts don't always operate under those best circumstances. So networking involves people. Can't avoid it. Can't network with ourselves, can we? Well, we'd probably enjoy that, but I don't think it achieves the overall outcomes of networking. So if we think about a definition, business networking is a process of building long-term relationships as well as a good reputation over time. So that sounds like something we should do, right?
Definitely, yeah. I guess that relationships is all about what I'm about in business, building those relationships.
Yeah.
It's just that initial coming up and starting that conversation. That is the scary bit.
Yeah, and we'll absolutely talk about that. So, and our tactics and our tips for everyone around that. But it does involve meeting and getting to know people who you might be able to assist as an accountant, and who potentially might be able to help you in return. So it cuts both ways, networking, and it is a very important thing to do. But I think as an introvert, you want to just do it strategically. It's not something, we're not the type of people generally to go to the opening of an envelope. We will pick and choose what we go to. So I think be strategic about your networking events, because that's going to help manage your energy as well. But you're right, Donna, that I think if we polled accountants or introverts as a whole around networking, I think the number one thing would be, or their number one concern would be, walking into a room, people you don't know, and attempting to introduce yourself or start a conversation, right?
That's definitely it.
Yeah, okay. So it's very normal. That's the first thing. It's very normal to find the whole situation completely scary, a little overwhelming, particularly if you're introverted by nature. But the benefits overall, and I'll ask you, Donna, when you sort of first started networking, you mentioned when you became a partner, you felt that was an important thing to do. So why did you feel at that point in time it was important for you to go and do some more networking?
Well, I think as a business owner, there's the expectation of, I guess, bringing on new clients. Yep. So it's a matter of getting out and building up your reputation in the marketplace so people know who you are,
Yes.
perhaps meeting some new clients at a networking event. I guess it also, I feel it really helps you as an advisor in helping your clients.
Yes.
Because if somebody says, hey, I need a insurance broker or I need a lawyer, and you don't know any of those people, it's a lot more difficult. Whereas if you're out and meeting new people and building those relationships, then you're the go-to person to, hey, here's a person who I trust to help you, because they've been recommended by my
That's a
accountant.
great point. That strategic alliance building, and I know Kylie and I often mention strategic alliances because I think one of the things that we do as accountants is we think we've got to do everything or be everything for our client, and then when we know that we can't, then often we can end up in that situation where we do nothing, and that's not great for us or the client. So I think the thing is that if you've got those strategic alliances, and it takes us time as introverts to trust people, like you said, you talked about building relationships. That's going to take time, right?
Definitely, yeah. It's not a go to a networking event and here, click, I've got this connection with somebody. It might be you find them.
I'm going to trust you.
That's it.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that, does it? No.
But quite often it's those networking events that's the starting point where you come in contact with them, where you can start that that relationship. And I think also as a business owner, there's an expectation from your team that you're out and about and promoting your business and being proud of your business and wanting to share what you do and how you can help people.
Yes.
So,
and I think if you're an up and coming, professional, I think that goes hand in hand, doesn't it? I mean, it's if you're thinking of taking the next step in your career or what that looks like or looking for new opportunities, well, then networking is a great way to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot in the past, before you were a business owner, you may not have been encouraged to go out because the partners might think, oh, we don't want them to have connections because then they've got more opportunity to leave sometimes. But I think it's really good if as a senior or a manager that you're looking to start that next step. Because otherwise you get, like I did, to the point where you become an owner and it's all of a sudden that pressure.
I've got to do it. And then there's pressure and then it's like,
it's now or never.
Yes, where do I start? We'll just jump in and hope I can swim. That's it. But yeah, we don't need that extra pressure. We can build up to that, right? I think another benefit that sometimes we can forget to, often if we only really spend time within our own organisations, that we can lose sight of what's going on in the industry as a whole, so getting some fresh ideas or fresh perspectives that might be different than your own, that might be different to the partners of your business. I think networking is a great learning opportunity. Would you say that's happened to you in the past, Donna?
Yeah, definitely, because you go out and meet with other people in the community and have discussions about what's happening in the industry, that you might not get the opportunity to if you're just keeping within your own circle. So it's definitely a good learning opportunity as well.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, there's an expectation from your team to be out there, be proud of your business, do all of that, but also giving back to the community. I mean, particularly too after the last couple of years that we've seen community focus become, pardon me, so much more important than it perhaps has been before. We had that, bit of a rough time. So I think showing that you're willing to participate in local business, give back, be out there and support, certain efforts and fundraising efforts and things like that is also a good thing. I think that just helps the business overall, helps you as a professional as well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely agree. It's good to give back, and I guess it makes you feel good about it. So if you don't if you don't enjoy going to the networking, at least if you're giving something back to the community, there's a positive to help you get through the day.
Absolutely. All right. So we've probably worked out that networking, and I know that I still do. I still look at networking and I focus in on that word work. It still absolutely is work for me. But I know that, I do things for a strategic reason. I always have a reason for why I'm doing something, and that helps me understand and motivate myself, and then actually realize the importance of what I'm doing. So I'm not just doing anything willy-nilly. I think that helps bolster me a little bit when I go into networking. Is that how you approach it, Donna, or how do you find networking events sort of find their way into, well, obviously they find our way into our inbox very easily, or social media, right? But how do you choose the ones that you go to? Or do you go to them all?
I guess I look for, and you could go to a networking event every day of the week here on the Gold Coast if you wanted to. There's so many out there. So I guess I'll go to some new ones and see how I like them. A lot of the time it's the type of people that are there. Are they either my prospective clients or people who I want to work with?
Yes. So there's that strategic side for you. You're looking for clients,
definitely,
and or that strategic alliance connections.
The professional partners that we like to work closely with. I think about what the structure of the event will be, because sometimes sometimes they are just a get together where everyone has a bit of a chat. Other times it'll be some, I guess, time to network. Then there'll be a presenter that does something, followed by everyone rushing off home. So it'll depend on how much. Exactly. And it also, and sort of sometimes you'll go to those events and you'll be sitting down, so you're sort of stuck talking to the same people, so there's less opportunity to meet new people. So it is a very strategic, as you say, process in choosing those events.
So as an introvert, tell me then about the structure and which ones that you tend to migrate towards, if you get to choose.
I try and get a balance of all of them. I guess as an introvert, the ones that might, you have a chat and then there'll be a presenter and you sit down, because you get a break. You get a break from that discussion. It's not just full on finding someone to talk to. Which can be stressful. So I guess they are the easier ones, but quite often the other events where it is purely just networking will have better results. So I'll try and, I guess, push myself to go to those sort of events as well.
Okay, so there's pros and cons of both there, you're telling us. So, obviously you go to that one that has, the open networking. Now, if the open networking is something which I think we all should do. I mean, if we want to go listen to a speaker, well, that's learning, that's knowledge. That's fine. That's not networking. Okay. So if we're trying to pass that off as networking, no, it's not. So with those open networking ones, arriving 5 minutes early before the speaker comes on, is not really taking this networking thing seriously, is it? And look, sometimes, we might have to do that. I get that. But if it's about networking, then probably shouldn't be doing that. We should be arriving a little bit earlier, shouldn't we?
That's exactly right. And most of them, it'll be a half an hour or something beforehand and have that chat. And then that might be a way to warm yourself into the networking process if it's not something that you're used to.
Yes, perfect. And then I love that you've identified that then if there is a speaker, you get to sit down and really, when someone else is talking, you don't feel it necessary to have to engage with anyone around you, so you get that break. you get that energy reboost, I suppose, where you're not having to think about what do I say next, how do I start conversations, those sorts of things. Now, most events, I suppose, with speakers, I'm going to talk about time because we're very, very focused on time in our industry. So events with speakers tend to be generally a longer time. You know, they might be 2 hours or 2.5 hours or something like that, often over a meal. You know, you'll find them in the morning or you find them lunchtime, sometimes in the evenings. But yeah, they're longer. They take more time. So the ones where they're just perhaps open networking or drinks and nibbles or something like that, sometimes you could go for 20 minutes, 40 minutes and really achieve your objective, and then you've done your networking, right? Yeah,
definitely. You get more bang for your buck at those shorter, more one-on-one events where you have those conversations.
Okay. All right. So we've got the different structures to consider. We've got the different time. And look, I think if you're really quite nervous about attending a networking event, I think the tricks are, you know, that certainly you could take a fellow introvert with you, you know, or I've always said that the best way to network is to take an extrovert with you because they just talk all the time, you know, and then you can sort of just, you know, come in when you need to. So it works both ways, you know. Have you ever done that before?
I think the challenge sometimes when you do go with somebody else, though, is you may stick in your comfort zone and stay talking to them for the whole event. So it is good from a confidence perspective to walk into a room with someone, but you have to cut the strings at some stage and make sure you're not just talking to that same person, and you make an effort to meet some new people. So it's got its pros, but it also has a bit of a if you get stuck with safety blanket.
Absolutely. So this is all about learning something new, tackling a new skill, becoming not necessarily, I don't think I'll ever be confident in networking or never not be nervous with networking. I've been doing it for, 25 plus years now, and I'm still not comfortable. I don't, you know, breeze into them and, you know, I still get the butterflies and, oh gosh, what am I going to talk about? Okay, you know, get your game face on, Linda, away you go, you know. So I will never be comfortable with them. I also will never be 100% comfortable with public speaking, much to what people think, you know. So they are skills, and skills can be mastered if you put time to them. So I think we've got to look at them in that way. It's not something I can do or can't do, or I can't do it because I'm an introvert. That's got nothing to do with it whatsoever. These are skills that you can master, and to master a skill, you got to practice.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the more you do go to these, the more your confidence builds, and the less scary it gets every time you go.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we've determined that networking is a good thing. It is a skill. We can actually do it if we want to. It's a good thing for building our careers, you know, taking the next step, doing all those things, talking to other people, getting new ideas, lots of really good reasons why we want to. What are some tips then? It still doesn't make us any less scared or overwhelmed about this, Donna, does it really?
No.
Well, not me.
I guess
anyway,
one of my strategies is that I like to actually get to an event early, because I find that if I walk into a full room with lots of groups already formed with people talking, I find it really hard to walk up to a group and introduce myself and break in. Whereas if I get there early, there's less groups formed. There might be a single person standing there to approach. Or if I'm standing by myself, it's more likely someone arriving will come up and talk to me.
Yes.
So I find that makes it less in your face than having to break into a formed group, especially if I don't know anyone there.
Yes, absolutely. Great tip. Hot tip of the day, everybody. That's perfect. Arrive early, even though our natural instinct will be arrive at the last minute so we don't have to talk to people. So arrive early because we're trying to stretch ourselves here. We're trying to create a new skill. And so arriving early, I do that too, Donna. I will arrive early, and, you know, particularly if it's a breakfast meeting, you will often find somebody standing with their cup of tea or coffee on their own. And I just, up I go and walk over and just say hello, you know, because they're going, phew, someone's talking to me. Yay. They don't want to stand there on their own either.
No, and I think you probably find a lot of people in the room are in exactly the same boat. So it shouldn't scare you to go up and say hello.
No. And I think that's the thing, is if we can just think a little bit beforehand that, we tend to focus so much on how we're feeling that we forget to think that there's others just like us out there that are doing that. So, it's not just you. The spotlight isn't on you. They can't tell that you're the one that's so nervous because they're too busy being nervous themselves. So, this is the thing. Oh, that's a great point, Donna. Oh, you're excellent at this. This is really good. Okay. So you are. This just comes from experience though, doesn't it? Because we've been there, done it. So if someone can learn some stuff from us and maybe, get 10 years in front of us, well, all the better.
That's exactly right. Another thing that I don't like to talk about myself, being an introvert, I prefer not to. So I think it's asking questions about the person that you're talking to. A lot of people like talking about themselves, so they'll actually appreciate you asking about them and respond. So obviously you can't just avoid any questions they ask in return, but I guess asking questions about other people is easier for me than coming up with something to talk about myself.
Yes. Another great strategy that I have always used is I question and question and question. And so sometimes to the point where it's a little bit too questioning and I have to draw back a bit because I'm just using it as an avoidance technique. So I've learned to read people a little bit, around the questions and when to maybe ease back a little bit on them. You do absolutely have to respond in kind, that's appropriate. But what I'll talk about, because I, spend a lot of time helping accountants with advisory conversations. And I talk about then that questions are the most important thing in that aspect as well. Because puts people at ease, because when you say, oh, hi, or what's your name, or what do you do? Oh, that's cool. I can answer that question. I can get it right.
It's an easy one.
It's an easy one. You start to build their confidence by asking questions, and by you asking questions and them responding, it builds your confidence. So it's a win-win situation, asking questions. I would also think too that something that can derail us a little bit is when somebody does ask us that inevitable, well, what do you do question? That if you haven't got something pre-prepared, or perhaps that you've, as much as this sounds silly, but as much as you've practiced it a little bit and can actually say it out loud, there's nothing worse than going, and it looks like you don't even know what you do. When you do know what you do, it's just our introversion and the way we think and process things just getting a bit the better of us. And being, I call it an attack of the crickets. The moment that anybody says, talk, Linda, when I'm not prepared, all I hear is crickets in my head, and the answer doesn't come naturally. So thinking on our feet can be a bit tricky for us. So don't put yourself in a position where you have to think on your feet. Maybe think about some answers to some very typical questions. The good old elevator pitch. I don't know, Donna, has that been something you've done for yourself?
Yeah. So I guess if someone asks what do you do and you just say you're an accountant, quite often that brings crickets from the other person. I think, I'm boring accountant. So having something more to build on that to explain what I do and what our business is about has always been something. And it's good to have that, because quite often you'll be talking with clients about that. So it's good to have something prepared for a networking event as well.
I think that's, some sort of strategy around the conversation. I mean, and do your research. I mean, if you've picked this event, you generally have an idea of the types of people that might be there. And if you're looking for both strategic alliances and possible new clients to talk to, then depending on who ends up in front of you, you should have a little bit of a strategy for one or the other. So I think do some research. The whole idea here is to set ourselves up for success, not set ourselves up for failure, because all that will do is feed that negative cycle of I can't do it. And we don't want that. We want to practice and we want to feel good about, oh, I did try that and that worked. Yeah, that question didn't go so well. I'll take that one off the list and put a different one on. So it's about learning. It's not, putting ourselves in a situation where we are going to fail. Do our research, get some sort of strategy behind even the questions, maybe even just jotting down some questions that you might ask yourself. There's the standard small talk type questions. I come from a country area, so weather's always very high on my list. How's the weather doing? It's raining too much. It's not raining enough. Guaranteed if you're around farmers at any point in time that works. Not so much here on the Gold Coast, weather doesn't work unless, we're going through a hot spell or a cold spell. So, there's plenty of things that you can use to get the conversation started, isn't there, Donna?
That's for sure. And I guess particularly around the Christmas time, it's pretty easy to strike up a conversation about someone's holiday plans and what they've got installed for the family. So it's an easy time of year if you run out of other conversations.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's like, when do you break for Christmas? Are you taking some holidays? Where are you going? Those types of questions. Absolutely. And of course, remember to have your answers ready because that's helpful. Okay. So that's sort of before and getting those conversations started. That's important. So we've covered that. How about during the event then? We've already talked about if there's a speaker, that's a little bit of a breather, I suppose, for us to help recharge our energy a little bit. So as introverts, which I said right at the start, we tend to prefer quiet alone time. That's when our brains and our thinking works the best and when we recharge our energy. So when people and noise are around, that's when we'll start to feel that drain on our batteries. And so when you can just sit quietly and perhaps listen to someone, that is a bit of a tiny little energy boost, even though you've got other people around you. So that's good. How else might we conserve our energy a little bit, perhaps during an event, Donna? Do you have anything else that you do?
I guess if you're feeling, and sometimes you do get stuck talking to people because it's difficult to exit a conversation, but I guess a simple way is just to go and refresh your drink, go and get another cup of tea or a glass of bubbly or whatever, depending on the time of the event. Go to the bathroom and have some alone time. They're very simple ways to, I guess, finish a conversation and have a bit of a break to recharge those batteries.
And even though it might seem a bit I don't know, crazy. You used to see there's a lot of jokes around pretending to fake a conversation on the phone. It's like, don't fake the conversation on the phone, but maybe you're going, oh, look, I'm expecting an important email. I'm just going to go over there and check them for a minute, and or something like that. Oh, I've just got to go chat to this person, which is a great way to break a conversation. And I think too, is that it's okay at a networking event to actually say, thank you. It was lovely meeting you. I'm just going to pop over here for a second. People expect that. We probably feel a little bit bad about doing that, but it's networking. That's what happens at networking. So I think it's okay to do that, isn't it, Donna?
It's definitely okay. It is. I find it uncomfortable to have that conversation, but particularly if you've gone to an event with a plan of, I want to meet this many people, I want to have a conversation with this many people, which sometimes you need to do to push yourself. Then you need to make that exit from your initial chat and move across and talk to somebody else. it's definitely fine to do it. No one will be offended by it, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. I think the thing is too, something that we could do before and then actually carry out while we're at the event is set some time limits or some boundaries. How long am I going to stay? And make sure then that you do leave, when you want to leave. I think that helps us feel a little more empowered about the situation. It's like, right, I'm going to go for 45 minutes. I'm going to do this networking, and then I'm going to, leave and go home, make my excuses and go home. Because I think if you try to overextend that, particularly if you're starting and when you're not feeling particularly confident or you're a little bit tired to begin with, then that's only going to get worse and worse, and you're going to want to avoid more networking than really gravitate towards it. Have you done that before, Donna? It's like, no, I'm leaving at 6 p.m. or I've got to be back to the office by 2 or whatever that is.
Yeah, and I think morning events are probably easier to set that goal because you do have to get back to work and you may have appointments, so it's definitely easy. I find the evening ones, and I know it's a good reason to get back to your family in any case, but I find it still harder to stick to those targets, which I try to do. I'll try and say I'm going to leave by this time, but sometimes I don't necessarily do that.
Well, sometimes you might be finding that it's like, I'm okay here. I'm actually enjoying myself. I'm actually achieving my goals. I reckon I can stretch to meet some more people. It's okay to stay. But I think the thing is don't stay, unless you feel confident enough to do that, with what I think we're talking about. So, okay.
And if it's really, really painful for you in the time, just get out when you need to.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So we talked about before, we talked about during, after the event too. And here's something I think as an introvert that we miss. We forget or are not aware of so much the energy drain that these types of things can have on us. So after the event, probably not best to plan a series of networking events, if you can help it, day in, day out. That's not going to be great. The next day, perhaps a long list of client appointments. That's not going to be good too, because that's talking to people. So be a little bit strategic about this, because you're probably going to be a little bit bombed out, a little bit tired after attending some of these networking events.
Yeah, I know I feel drained. And even if I do, like, I'm there and I'm enjoying myself and having good conversations, I still feel that drain afterwards. So you're right, it's making sure you're planning ahead and what you do need to do afterwards so you can still get the job done when you go back to the office. Set some quiet processing time aside to rejuvenate the energy.
Exactly. And if you can explain to your family or your better half, if the people that you live with, that you might just need some quiet time when you come home, you might just need to go and binge on some TV or listen to some music or do some sort of mindfulness or go for a walk or whatever it is for you that, allows you to recharge. Then that might be something for you. I do prefer, when we think about the timing of the day, either breakfast or lunch events. I really struggle with evening events. I find them difficult for me, only because, obviously I talk a lot generally during the day. And so by the time I reach 3-4 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm pretty much done. So for me to go to that later afternoon or evening event, it's a big thing for me. So it has to have a pretty big strategic kick to get me there. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about that, Donna. Is that something that resonates with you?
I'm not a morning person at all.
There you go.
So
okay.
I actually struggle with the morning ones. Just because, I'm still feeling tired and still waking up. So the evening ones for me are better because I do function better at that time of night. So I understand what you're saying. You're already drained. But if I've got something on, I might plan for that day to be a little less social
Yes, fair enough.
beforehand. So I've
Yes.
still got enough energy left at the end of the day.
Perfect. So it's find what works for you, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know, what works
Yeah.
for you, because I think what's very important here is that we have to watch what energy we're putting out and what we're using, because there's other parts of our lives that need us as well. So we can't just bomb ourselves out, you know, doing all this fabulous networking or whatever that is. You know, so it's important to think about that in the broader perspective of what we've got to do in a week or a month. And when we've got all of these holiday, Christmassy type networking events bombarding us, sometimes it's, you know, difficult to say no. But I think it's in everybody's best interest that we do pick and choose a little bit about what we do there. Donna, any other great tips for networking and what you've done, or to really summarize what you said? What are the big things for you?
I would say the big things are the getting there early makes it easier. I liked what you said, have a plan about some conversation points. And I think the other important thing is probably following up after an event.
Yes.
Or having a, when you're finishing the conversation, having a plan of the next step. So you don't, as we said before, you don't necessarily go to a networking event expecting to make a sale or win a new client. But you might say, hey, I really liked having that conversation with you. Can we catch up and have a coffee one-on-one, which might be a more comfortable environment. And then, yeah, I can learn more about you and see whether we can work together at that point in time. So I think the follow-up is quite often, some people just go home and then never see those people again. But having a plan of how we might connect later on is important as well.
Yeah, perfect. Otherwise, you miss that strategic thing that we were talking about, which is the whole idea really around networking. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Donna. And look, if anybody wants to get some more information about networking, I've got a bit of a networking guide for introverts, which, you know, I'm popping up on the screen at the moment if you're watching us, but I've also just popped it into the chat if you're in the Clubhouse room. So you can actually download that. It's got a bit more about that conversation strategies and things like that in it, but all of the tips that we talked about today, but of course, plus the extras that Donna and I just threw in, because that's the stuff that we've learned over time. So I hope everybody's had some, you know, some great thoughts and things about networking and how you're going to approach networking. If anyone's got any questions for us, please pop it into the chat, raise your hand, type it in, you know, let us know if you've got any questions. But otherwise, I think we've covered networking quite well. Donna, don't you think?
I think so. I'm hoping people got something out of it.
Absolutely. I'm sure they did. There's always some nuggets in there for those that are listening. So coming up, we're actually going to be taking a bit of a break with the Public Practice Accountants Club. We're going away for our Christmas holidays. So we're taking a nice little break, but of course we'll be back in 2023 with a whole bunch of new topics. So if you are a CPA, please keep an eye on those divisional newsletters, because we'll list the topics in there nice and early for you, so you can see when we're coming back. Of course, we've got a great one to kick off the new year, and it's an accountant's guide to conquering 2023. Whew, that sounds pretty strong. I think we all need that, right, to kick off our year the right way. So look, thank you to everybody that's listened into these events over the last almost 2 years. Kylie and I have been doing this. So it's crazy to think about all of the different things that we've talked about and all our amazing guests as well. And I hope you have enjoyed listening to us. And of course, we'll be back for 2023. Thank you, Donna Bruce, for your time this morning. We know it is extremely precious. Thank you so much for helping us out.
Thanks, Linda. I've had a good time.
That's good, even though it was morning.
That's right.
Fabulous. All right, everybody. Well, I wish you and your families a very safe and happy holidays. And I look forward to catching up with you somewhere around the traps. You know, you can find me on LinkedIn and a whole variety of places. So I'm very happy to talk to anybody and give my advice. Please reach out if you want to chat to me. I'm pretty easygoing and easy to talk to, so always happy to help. But have a wonderful day, a great week, and we'll see you in 2023. Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Donna. Bye.
Thanks, Linda.